could just register them, and if they come in before the roll call, that's fine as well. Okay then, so thank you very much all for coming to the remote planning meeting on the 18th of August 2020 for Neath Talbot Council. We will be operating the meeting under the Teams remote protocol, which I know you've all had and have experienced a couple of times now, so we're all getting used to it. If you wish to speak, please use the chat function or raise the hand if you're using a personal computer. Please put your microphones on mute unless called to speak. It just reduces the feedback. And there we are. I think try and keep it as quiet as possible in the background. I know that it's not always easy when you're working from home. But that being said, I will go into the meeting proper now. This meeting will be recorded. So if you continue to be present, it is deemed that you give your consent to that recording. Just should add that. Okay. So part one of the agenda, item 1, is declarations of interest. Now, I've asked Tammy, as we have done in the past, to do the roll call, but also at the same time ask you if you have any matters of interest to declare, because it just saves time. So Tammy, if you could just take members of the committee through that process, thanks.
Certainly, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So, Chair, I'll start with yourself. You are obviously present. Do you have any declarations?
No, I have matters of interest to declare.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, Councillor Sean Percy.
Yeah, I'm present and no interest to declare, Tammy.
Thank you, Councillor Percy. Councillor Dennis Keogh, can you confirm you're present and whether you have any declarations of interest, please?
I am present, Chair, but I have no interest to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Rydian Mason, please, same questions.
Yeah, I can confirm I'm present, but I have no declarations of interest to declare.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ros Davis is not present, so I move on to Councillor Steve Hunt, please.
I am here and I have no interest to declare.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Aaron Woolcock, same questions to you, please.
Yes, present, Chair, no interest to declare.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chris Williams, please.
Present and no interest to declare, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Suzanne Renkes, please.
Present and no interest to declare.
Thank you, Councillor Renkes. Councillor Mark Prothero, please.
Present, thank you, Tammy, and no interest to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Scott Bamsey, please. You're on the mute, Councillor Bamsey.
Yeah, present, sorry, no interest to declare.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chris Jones.
Present, Chair, and no interest to declare.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. I'm just going to check that Councillor Ros Davis definitely is not present. No, okay. We've received apologies from Councillor Annette Wingrave as the LDP member chair.
Yeah.
Also present, we have local ward members, Councillor Sharon Freegard and Councillor Saif Rahman. Councillor Rahman is speaking on application number P2020/0470. We have planning officers Kerry Morris and Nicola Lake with us. Democratic Services officers as myself, Tammy Davis, just myself today. We have Terry Davis from Highways.
Right.
Morning, Terry. Legal officer Rebecca McGregor.
Okay.
IT officer Spencer Blewett.
Thank you.
And I believe that's all, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Tammy, for that. And a big welcome to any member of the who is not a member of the committee who's made it their business to come to planning today. So to Councillor Rahman and to Councillor Freegard, welcome. I know that it is normally the protocol for a 5-minute speaker, but because Councillor Rahman is a member of the council, I will waive that. So, okay, we'll move on then. So quite I'm going to say this lightly, it's quite a light agenda today. Let's hope we don't have too much to discuss here. Application P2020/0470, Gospel Hall, Ynys Street, Port Talbot, as change of use. So a big welcome also to Kerry Morris, who's the head of planning, who doesn't normally take this meeting, but a very warm welcome to you because Steve Ball is on leave. So Mr. Morris, if you could take the committee through that application, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We'll do it. And as you said, Chair, Steve is on leave, so I'll send his apologies on his behalf this morning. So if you bear with me a moment, I'll try and share my screen, which will put up a brief presentation. So if you bear with me a sec.
While you're putting that on, I just want to make sure that everybody has received the presentation. Anybody that hasn't, please indicate.
Can you see the presentation, Chair?
I can see it, but I just wondered if they'd all received it beforehand. I haven't heard anybody say no, so carry on, please.
Okay. What I'll do as well, Chair, just to make sure that my doesn't drop out, I'll knock my camera off as well, just in case I have any dropouts.
Yeah, lovely.
Okay. Okay, well, the application site then, Chair, is, as you've said, it's the former Gospel Hall at Ynys Street, Port Talbot. The site comprises a stone-built detached property, which was formerly a place of worship. The site itself is flat in profile, and it's bounded to the north there by the River Avon, and on either side by residential dwellings, and obviously the opposite side of the road as well. So it is within a residential context. So it's the description of the development. It's a full application for a change of use, and from a Class D1 Gospel Hall to a garage, store, workshop for non-commercial use, which is classed as unique or sui generis. So there's also an installation of a timber door to the front elevation and formation of new vehicular footway crossings. So the applicant, in terms of the providing the information, has provided a written statement, Chair, sort of confirming that the proposed garage will be used in association of personal hobbies. So there's no intention to carry out any commercial work now or indeed in the future. There's also the intention, Chair, to store and maintain 2 personal vehicles and to store 2 motorcycles over the winter months. There's no intention to store any chemicals or flammable liquids, or indeed for spraying any of the vehicles. And the applicant has already indicated that he's happy to accept the imposition of suitable conditions restricting the use of the property to non-commercial only. So in order to facilitate the development, then, Chair, the existing front wall, which is shown in that photograph there, that will be proposed to be demolished, and a new pedestrian sort of vehicle crossover along the entire frontage of the site, as you can see there.
Chair, I'm not able to see the presentation on my iPad. I do have it up separately. I'm just checking in case other members are having any issues.
Thank you, Vice.
But it's not come up for me.
Okay, anybody else not seeing the presentation? No, okay, as long as you've got access to it, Vice Chair, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll follow along. There we are.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. The entrance porch it will be altered to provide new vehicle access to the property and via new sort of side hinged timber entrance doors, and the external parking, which is illustrated in that image there, that will be set up so to ensure that there's no parking outside neighbouring properties on the road. So in terms of discussions with the applicant, Chair, it's probably worth noting that amended plans were requested from the developer in terms of changing the initially proposed metal roller shutters to side hinge doors, and also amended plans were requested by Highways colleagues to ensure that there's 1 pedestrian vehicle crossover link as opposed to the original 3 separate ones. So in terms of consultations, no objections have been received, Chair. And in terms of representations from neighbouring properties, which were consulted on the 16th of July and the 18th of June, and also site notices were displayed on the 14th of July and the 19th of June, we have received 11 representations to date, Chair.
Thank you.
So in terms of the main issues to consider, obviously the principal development, what impact there is on the visual amenity of the area and the amenity of neighbouring properties, and of course highway safety. In terms of principle of development, the site is within settlement limits, so the principle of the development at this location is generally acceptable, provided of course there are no overriding highway amenity or environmental objections. The lawful use of the existing properties is a place of worship, and members will be aware, of course, that would be considered as a community facility. So as such, the proposal has had to be considered against the requirements of policy SC2 of the LDP, which would need, any proposal therefore would need to demonstrate that the facility is surplus to requirements or indeed no longer viable. So the report sets out, Chair, what's been instigated in terms of the property has been marketed for a period of time. And what's notable is that the other proposals, other than what the applicant has submitted, were also for non-community uses as well, and majority of residential. Yeah. So due to its location in a residential area with very limited parking opportunities, both on site, existing and on street, I think it would be fair to say that another community use would be unsuitable for this location. So on that basis, Chair, it's reasonable to conclude that the facility is surplus to requirements. And as the most appropriate use for the site would be on a similar small scale, such as domestic scale storage, again, it's reasonable to assume that it's considered to be no longer viable as a community facility. So for those reasons, the proposal has been deemed acceptable in terms of policy SC2. Moving on to visual amenity, there will be some physical changes on site in terms of the setting and appearance of the property, but it's probably worth noting, Chair, that the removal of the wall itself and the construction of the pedestrian vehicle crossover wouldn't in itself require planning permission, but it's the changes to the porch and the use itself which is what requires consent. So overall, with all that in mind, the development is not considered to have a detrimental impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area or indeed street scene. In terms of residential amenity, potential overlooking, given that the only change to windows would be the removal of the small windows at the front porch, and indeed the fact that the proposal is to change use to storage only, again, that wouldn't be considered to be providing unacceptable overlooking issues. Similarly, with overbearing and overshadowing issues, again, given the only external alterations to the building are to the porch areas to the front, that again would be not give rise to any unacceptable impacts or issues. In terms of potential for noise, disturbance or odours, environmental health officers have assessed the submitted details, Chair, and have confirmed that a non-commercial storage or recreational workshop should not give rise to any significant issues in terms of local amenity or noise or indeed other nuisances. If disturbance does, however, arise, the report outlines that it can be dealt with under normal statutory nuisance powers in the same way as any other residential premise. So nevertheless, what we're proposing, Chair, is that suitably worded conditions will be imposed restricting the use of the property to domestic scale storage and garaging with no commercial operations allowed or indeed car spraying. Quickly moving on to highways and parking and access requirements. The highway section have indicated that, again, subject to suitable worded conditions, there are no objections. A maximum of 3 parking spaces is recommended, and that is illustrated on the screen there. And that would be the same requirement as a residential property. So what colleagues have also advised that should a subsequent application come in to make proposed for a commercial use, then that would not be looked favourably at this particular location. So again, subject to worded conditions, there's no detrimental impact on highway or pedestrian safety. In terms of biodiversity or ecology, a bat survey has found no evidence, so the normal conditions will apply, so that it is considered acceptable in terms of ecology. Flood risk and drainage. The application site is located just on the edge of a C2 flood zone. NRW have been consulted, and they've offered no objection based on the letter of acceptability that's been submitted. And the reason being that the application, as I said, is located on the edge of the very edge of the flood zone, and there's no change in vulnerability of the use, and indeed no increase in the footprint size of the property itself. So based on the tests in TAN 15, the proposal is acceptable in terms of flood risk. Contaminated land, although the site has been identified as potentially contaminated land, officers have offered no objection to the proposal and subject to conditions relating to unexpected contamination found at the site. So the only two other matters that have been raised that haven't been dealt with in the report, in the sense of the representations received, relate to the storage of hazardous materials. And as that's not a material planning consideration, that's not addressed in the report, but the applicant has confirmed that there is no intention to store such material. And in relation to outside storage, an appropriately worded condition will be imposed on the application, preventing any outside storage in order to ensure that the visual amenity is not adversely affected. So based on that report, Chair, the recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Morris. I'm just going to explain now that normally this would not have come to committee, but the local ward councillor did ask for it to come to committee based on the number of concerns from local residents. And with that in mind, the call-in panel did accede to that request based on giving it a full transparency to members of the public. So having said that, Councillor Rahman is here today and is going to be the first speaker, because I normally come to any registered speakers first. So I will call on Councillor Rahman to come and address the committee with what he wants to say. Normally, speakers have 5 minutes, but because you are a member of council, that does not apply, councillor. So in your own time, when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
I see nods, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great stuff. Yeah, well, thank you, Chair. And can I also thank the planning officer, Russell, for his time on speaking to me a number of occasions with regards to this application. Before I go on to my concerns on this particular application, I would like to point out that I am all for bringing back old and derelict building back into use, whether it's for residential or for any recreational use. Reading through the report, I can see that the concern of residents have been considered at some degree. A number of conditions now been applied to the application. However, I still strongly feel that despite the number of recommended conditions proposed, I still have concern on the approval of this application. I feel that granting approval to the change of use will now allow the site being one step closer to be used for commercial purposes in the future. I know Kerry picked up on that, and he did say that it will not be favorable if that was the case, but that does not stop the applicant putting in an application in the future at all. The applicant mentioned that the Gospel Hall will be used for store classic cars, and not just one, but could be few, including motorbikes. My issue is that with classic cars, there are a lot of regular maintenance required to keep them old automotive running. And with any motor vehicle maintenance, it means additional vehicular repair noise. You probably all had your tire change in your cars, and you probably noticed the amount of noise that the wrench make to take a tire off, a wheel off from your car. So my concern is that the noise level will be something that resident will still be concerned with. The other issue is that with any repair, you are using a material that you need to do work on your cars, and that will also allow the issue of smell. One of my main concerns, which I did highlighted in my submission, is that flammable material. I know there's a condition in place, but 3 vehicles having flammable material stored within them is a cause of concern, especially in a residential area. If a fire was to happen, I think there would be a serious risk of public health. If I move on, Chair.
Yep.
My reason, I'm sure everyone read my reasons. I point out 5 reasons that I think this application is to be considered at the committee meeting. Would you mind if I read them out?
Not at all. Sorry.
Okay. Number 1 was the Ynys Street is a residential area, and the proposal to place a garage or a workshop would expose to smell, fume, and noise associated with the working of a car garage workshop. Number 2, I have a concern of the storage of some of them inflammable material, such as petrol, engine oil, and tire, would be a potential hazard in a built-up area. Number 3, change of use from Gospel Hall to a garage workshop in a built-up residential area will have a negative impact on the visual amenity. Number 4, proposed height reduction of both side walls are a privacy concern for both neighboring residents. Number 5, increased traffic to the area, including access and exiting from the site, is a highway safety concern. Garage workshop with proposed additional on-site car parking will allow more traffic to enter and exit to the main road and can be a safety issue. So, Chair, these are my concerns, and I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and to members and officers. I don't have anything further to add at this point.
Thank you, Councillor. I will come back to you when the debate is finished before we go to any recommendations, just in case there is anything you wish to add. Councillor Freegard, is there anything you wish to say at this point?
Yes, please. I'd just like to expand on what Councillor Cypher said.
Yeah.
And thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. It's in terms of the entry and the egress to this particular building, you have to cross the pavement. Now, he's got the 2 motor vehicles, 2 motorcycles there. Surely at some point there will be flammable materials there, because they will have to be filled with petrol for him to move them or to test them. Now, he'd need to get them on and off the front, which means he's crossing over the pavement. So I don't understand how there wouldn't be any risk to pedestrian or highway safety. You're not talking just about 1 vehicle, and we have no vehicles crossing the pavement areas there or coming in touch with any pedestrian area. So this is a real concern. And also the proximity to the mini roundabout with entry and egress to Ynys and Velindre. That's quite busy as well. So I wonder if all of those have been taken into account in doing the risk assessment when looking at pedestrian and highway safety.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. I'm going to go back to officers now for reply to the concerns raised. So first to Kerry Morris, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll touch on a couple of issues, and then perhaps I'll pass the highway and safety issues across the Terrace. In terms of 1 or 2 of the issues that were raised, as I said, you're quite right. The applicant can put any individual can put a subsequent application in to change use. In terms of the comment that was made, so this application relates to the fact that it's 1 step closer to a commercial premises. But as the report has outlined, Chair, any new application for a commercial use would very likely be looked on unfavourably, both from an amenity perspective and indeed a highways perspective. So, as I said, it's we can each application will be looked upon as on its own merits, of course, but the report outlines that, if applications subsequently come forward on that basis, then it is likely to be looked on unfavourably. In terms of the nuisance levels, noise and smell, as I said, our environmental health officers have assessed the information that has been submitted, and as the report states, Chair, the recreational or personal use of the workshop shouldn't give rise to any significant concerns or issues. But as the report outlines, if disturbance does arise, then it can be dealt with in the normal statutory procedures. In terms of the storage of flammable liquids, as I said, there are conditions there that protect the use from that. So from that perspective, there are no concerns in terms of that issue going forward. And perhaps I could maybe pass to Terry to deal with the highway and safety issues. Yeah,
I'd be very pleased if you could give us your input, please, Terry.
Yeah, well, obviously we've looked at this in terms of highway safety, and basically the hall itself could be converted into a residential property, and without planning consent could provide 3 car parking spaces within the curtilage of the property, or at least 2, which would they could then ask to put in a vehicular pedestrian crossing, as what is being put in now. But they need only have put the original application required 3. We asked that because of residents, or we heard that there was a lot of disabled people use that route for accessing the town centre. We asked for the one single crossing to go across the whole frontage of the property to make that more safe. We looked at it in terms of traffic generation. A 3-bedded property would probably create no more in terms of trips than a domestic this garage for a non-commercial use. We also looked at trip generation on the existing highway. I looked at the guidance document manual for streets, and they indicate that there isn't an issue on vehicles reversing out onto the carriageway for a road with a 30-mile-an-hour limit. With vehiclers, they recommend with vehicles no 10,000 vehicles a day. So this road comes nowhere near that sort of thing, and that's what we looked at in terms of highway safety.
Could you just address the question I think it was Councillor Freegard said about possibility of flammable liquids crossing the pedestrian highway? Is that a risk in your opinion?
It's no greater risk than for a residential property with domestic garage, or with a driveway on the other, with a driveway.
I see. Okay, thank you for that. Just before we go on to any other questions from committee, I'm just going to briefly go back to the 2 members who asked the original questions. Are you happy with the responses from officers so far? Councillor Rahman first, and then Councillor Freegard.
Yes, Chair, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Freegard?
Well, I would like confirmation that you're happy for these vehicles to be crossing over the pavement area where there is no there is no traffic there at the moment. When the church was there was no garage. There are no garages down towards that end where it is. And just so that you are confirming that you're happy for these vehicles to be crossing back and forth from the pavement area. As you said, a lot of disabled people use that track to go down to the town. That's my concern. This is something new. I understand about the process of the criteria that is governed by the church, and there's nothing we can do with that, and it could be turned into anything else. However, I want to make sure that we've got the safeguards in place should this go ahead, because I have a real concern about it. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to come to Mr. Davis now in a minute, but I think basically that is what they are saying, is that there's no greater risk because of the person using it as a hobby garage than there would be for a residential. And I just want to come back to Mr. Davis. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that roughly what you're saying?
Basically, yes, that's clarifying that. If that was converted into a residential dwelling, then we would probably try and ask for some off-street parking, and they would provide a pedestrian vehicle crossing in a similar context to what's been provided for this non-commercial garage.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Freegard.
Chair. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you. Okay, then I will give speakers a chance to come back at the end, but I'm going to open this up to the committee now, and I have a member, Councillor Hunt, who wishes to speak first, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I just say thank to the local members for their input. It's important that we know from those living in the area and representing those people that have the concerns. So I thank them for their input. Very well put forward. But I would like to say as well, Chair, that as far as Kerry and the highways I've mentioned, conditions and what is in the recommendations here today, it's a thorough piece of work. It's very easy to understand, even though sometimes we are uncomfortable or concerned with what may happen. A point I was going to ask Kerry anyway was that when it was a church, and I don't know how long ago it was still an active church, then I would have thought that those using it, there would have been a lot more vehicles in and around the vicinity to visit that church. I wouldn't think that everybody would have walked there. So that would be probably a highway issue at that time, or concerns. And as far as flammable materials goes, and that will always be, certainly with something that's took place in my own ward recently with the explosion that everybody knows about, I would be concerned. However, again, we all, not just with driveways and garages, we all sometimes, if we run out of fuel, got to buy it in a petrol station, bring it home and put it in our vehicles. But also with our lawnmowers, I store petrol in a proper container so that I can use to put into my petrol into my lawnmower. So I think the officers have done a very good job on this. I think the proposal today is very good proposal for the area. As I think Cais has said, we don't want derelict buildings in any of our communities. I think they need to be brought back into use. And I think what is recommended today is a very good practical use. But I do take on board their concerns. But I understand what the officers have said on the highway safety, and I will be supportive of the recommendation today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Just to show people, I have recognised the Vice Chair wishes to speak and Councillor Keogh. Tammy, can you please let me know if there's anybody else wishing to speak? Because I can see +2, but I can't see who they are.
Councillor Maisan.
Yeah.
Councillor Percy and Councillor Keogh. That's all I'm seeing there, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to take them in order that I saw them. So the Vice Chair, Councillor Percy first, then Councillor Keogh, and then Councillor Maisan. So Councillor Percy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I'm quite confident with this one, really, that the conditions that have been put in are adequate to address the concerns raised by the residents. I think somebody else already said they're quite thorough and quite detailed. With regards to the vehicle crossing, I don't really see an issue with that at all. The front walls being removed, so there's going to be plenty of visibility. There are, on that end of the street, 2 houses that do have driveways and another house with a garage. So I think any pedestrians in the area will already be aware of the risks of vehicles crossing the pavement. It's not going to be the first property in the area to do it either. So I just wanted to make that point and say that I'm quite confident that the conditions were adequate. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Keogh, please.
Thank you, Chair. While I see that most of the conditions that have been put in place would alleviate most of the concerns of the residents, I have to support my two councillors in that ward and the other concerns of the residents. So when it comes time to be voting, I will be abstaining from the vote, Chair. Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you for letting us know that. Councillor Wilcock, I do see your hand raised. I'll come to you shortly. Councillor Misen, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sean sort of spoke briefly on what I was going to say. I got no issues with 4 of the concerns that Councillor Rahman expressed, and congratulations to him and Councillor Figard for representing the residents. The only one I got a slight concern with, and perhaps Kerry can alleviate this, one of his cars is a VW Classic. The other one says a modern track car. Now I take it that this is a racing car, perhaps, is it? And if that's the case, you know, with these racing cars, they perhaps got to be finely tuned, and they might have to be revved quite vociferously, perhaps, to get them tuned to race. And just a concern that noise could be perhaps monitored then. That's the only concern I got. I will be approving the recommendation as well, but that's just a slight concern I got, that's all.
Okay, as soon as you've addressed that to Mr. Morris, I'll come to him now, but I do believe that officers have been very good with the conditions, linking them to the concerns, and these conditions will apply. And also, we will still have the fallback position of any environmental health officers to receive any complaints should that arise. I mean, we can't see into the future, but I think the conditions, along with the standard methods of dealing with noise, will still apply. So I'll come to Mr. Morris. So I think Councillor Misen addressed you as one of, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I would only reiterate, Chair, what you've just outlined. It, you know, the procedures and processes are there. That should there be any issues in the future, should there be any complaints submitted, then environmental health officers have the procedures and have the powers available to them to regulate any noise or nuisance that does occur. So, as I said, to reiterate again, the environmental health officers have looked at the detail of the application, have not given any objection. And as I said, you know, it should not give rise to any significant issues, given that it is a personal use and not a commercial use.
Thank you, thank you. Happy with that response, Councillor Misen?
Yes, I am, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to come now to Councillor Wilcock, who's indicated.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. Can I first of all say that I do think that the local members have a reason to be concerned here. However, I'd also think that the conditions that officers have placed on the application are well. Just going to mention one thing really. I note on condition 7 that it says the property shall not be used for any commercial activity. And I think it's the word missing there, any. I think an any is missing there, at any time.
What page, Councillor Wilcock? Sorry, what page you're on?
Condition 7, and it's page 18, Chair. 18,
right, okay. Officers, is there a word missing?
Yeah, there is a typo. Councillor Wilcock is absolutely right there. The word any is missing, so it should read, shall not be used for any commercial activity at any time, including car spraying.
So,
thank you, Chair. If I may continue then, and it goes on then to say, including car spraying. Now, that I think is important, particularly in view of the comments that have been raised by the local members with regards to flammable liquids. Now, cellulose is a flammable liquid, quite highly flammable. But what I'm wondering, Chair, is where it says there, including car spraying, rather than see that any possibility of any exploitation of that phrase, car spraying, would it not be more appropriate and make the condition more robust if it said any vehicle spraying?
Okay, I'm going to come back to Mr. Morris. Your comments on that?
I don't have any sort of strong comment either way in that. I personally, I think that is sufficient as is, because, as I said, the intention of the applicant is to, to outline his two vehicles, albeit, if members did wish to have that changed to cover all vehicles, then I don't see that as being any particular problem or issue, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilcock. Eagle-eyed as normal. I do take on board what you're saying, and when we come to recommendations, it may be that you wish to put an amendment forward to change that condition. Are you minded to do that?
I'm perfectly happy with what Mr. Morris has said, Chair. If he thinks that the condition is robust enough, I'm happy to go with that.
I'm grateful for that. Thank you, Councillor Wilcock. Okay, right. I don't have anybody else at the moment wishing to speak. I just would like to say a few words myself. I think that obviously myself and Steve Paul were minded of the issues that the local members had with this application. This is why we consented to have it in an open public debate rather than delegated powers. So I'm very grateful that you've shown interest in the planning application and contributed to the system. And it's going to be very transparent to the public now as to what has actually been discussed and your views on it. I'm also take on board what Councillor Keogh has said, that he wishes to abstain when the time comes. So that's your prerogative as well. The only bit about the application that I would like to sort of stress is that this is going to be a hobby for this person. It's not going to be functioning 24/7 or even all of the working day, because this person has another job and wishes to do this just as a hobby. So the hours of work will not be like all day, every day. But even saying that, there are conditions and there are methods whereby if there is any disturbance of any kind, smell, noise, it can be dealt with, as Mr. Morris has said. So I haven't got anything further on that one. I will go to the recommendation on page 15, I believe. Yes. Just 1 second.
Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, Councillor Hunt.
I thought you was going back to the local members to see if they
had
anything.
You know what?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I was going back to the local members, so I will call on Councillor Rahman, who who's been waiting patiently for the committee to debate. So, Councillor Rahman, if you would like to have the last word.
Nothing further to say, Chair. Can I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak? I have nothing further to add.
All right then, Councillor Freegard.
Thank you, Chair. I thought it was a good suggestion from Councillor Wilcock. The wording is going to be important. As we have to add in the word any, if we could, put the word vehicle in rather than car, I think that would be a stronger wording. Thank you.
That would have to come from a member of the committee, Councillor Freegard. That's why I went back to Councillor Wilcox to see if he did want to. He's quite happy, unless another member of the committee wishes to put an amendment through. I think we can go with just the any. Becky, if you could just give me your advice on that. Does it need an amendment?
I think as it's a typographical error in terms of the word any, that's fine. If any member of the committee was minded to change the actual wording of the condition itself materially, i.e. car to vehicle, that you would need an amendment to be put forward. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Chair. Okay, right. So I'm going to ask members of the committee now if anybody wishes to put an amendment on that condition or any other condition.
Chair.
Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, I think Councillor Wilcock did put a good proposal forward. I do appreciate what Kerry's response was, but to safeguard and to help, I mean, there are motorbikes which are not covered under a car. So they could be spraying those at any point. So I think vehicle would be an adequate amendment. I don't think it really alters the recommendations too much today. So I would put that forward as an amendment, Chair, if I can.
Okay, hold that thought then, Councillor Hunt. I'll come back to you because I can see Councillor Keogh has also indicated to speak. Councillor Keogh?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was just got in, Councillor Hunt got in before me, but see now that he is proposing it, I will second that proposal.
Oh, right, okay then. Right, we have a proposal for an amendment and a seconder, and I believe we will add the word any now, Becky, into the amendment, seeing as it's going to have an amendment anyway. And instead of the word car spraying, it would read vehicle spraying. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the committee as a recommendation that we accept everything else as per page 15, but include the word any and also change the word car to vehicle. So I'm going to ask Tammy now to do the roll call of voting intentions and also if they've all been present. Tammy?
Chair.
Thank you,
Chair, sorry.
I'm going to ask.
Who's sorry? Yep. Becky? Yep.
Chair, I think it would be appropriate for everybody to vote on the amendment first, that they're happy with the amendment, and then we would vote on the actual application itself.
Oh yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Sorry to make a duplication.
Let's get this right. Absolutely. So
Apologies.
In the first instance, then we were just voting on the change of words, the amendment as put forward by Councillor Hunt. So Tammy, if you would take the members of the voting committee through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So members, just to be clear, we are voting on the amendment for the word vehicle to replace the word car in condition 7. I'd like to ask whether you've all been present for the item and how you vote on the amendment, starting with yourself, Chair, Councillor Suzanne Patterson.
Yeah, I've been present and I will vote for the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Yeah, I've been present and I'll also be voting for the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Percy. Councillor Dennis Keogh, the same questions, please.
Yes, I have been present for the entire meeting and I will be voting for the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Rydian Mason, please.
Yeah, I've been present for all the meeting and I'll be voting for the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Hunt, please.
Yes, I've been present for the entire meeting and I will be voting for the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Alwyn Woolcock.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can confirm that I've been present for the entire meeting and I will be supporting the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chris Williams, please.
Yes, Chair, I can confirm I've been present for this meeting and I agree with the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Suzanne Renkes, please.
I actually dropped out of the meeting for about a minute, I think, just trouble with Wi-Fi, I think, but I don't think it made a material difference, so I would vote to approve the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor, that's great. Councillor Mark Prothero, please.
Thank you, Tammy. Yes, I can confirm I've been present for the whole meeting and I will be supporting the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Prothero. Councillor Scott Bamsey. I think you're on mute, Councillor Bamsey.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I dropped out for about a minute as well, but it didn't affect anything really. I support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chris Jones, please.
Yes, I've been present for the entire meeting and I will be supporting the amendment.
There we are. Thank you, Chair. That amendment has carried.
Thank you. Beck, even though those two councillors said they dropped out, it's perfectly acceptable. They believe it didn't affect them in any way, so we're going to go with that. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm content with that, Chair.
Lovely, thank you very much. That is carried, as Tammy has said. So that now becomes the recommendation that we will now vote on. So I will ask Tammy to go through it again. I'm not sure if we do need to ask the question if you've already been present. You've just answered that. So Tammy, if you could just go through and say which way the councillors wish to vote on the revised recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so as Chair says, we're voting on the revised recommendation. Starting with yourself, Chair, Councillor Paterson, please.
Yes, I vote for.
Thank you. Councillor Percy.
I'll be voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Keogh.
I will be abstaining, Tammy,
Thank
sorry.
you, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Mason, please.
I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
I will be voting for the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Woolcock.
For the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Williams.
I'll be for the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Renkers.
For the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Prothero.
For the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Bamsey.
For the recommendation, Tammy.
Thank you. Finally, Councillor Chris Jones, please.
For the recommendation.
Thank you. Chair, that was approved.
Thank you very much, committee, and I just believe that it was well worth bringing this to committee just to dovetail everything and to make sure that all the local councillors had their say. So thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next item. So that is application number 4, our agenda item. Application P 2020/0627. It's a demolition of existing utility room and replacement with a single-storey rear side extension, plus retention and completion of timber gazebo to side elevation. Now, this is before us today merely because the applicant is a serving councillor. So in all cases like this, we do like to be crystal clear with the public. So that is the reason. I don't anticipate any issues with it, but I will ask Mr. Morris to take the committee through this application, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll once again look to share my screen if I can.
Yep.
Right. Okay, can members see the screen?
Anybody can't see a screen? No, I can't see anybody indicating. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, well, this as you say, is the application site is at 4 Woodlands Terrace, Resolven. It comprises a 2-storey end of terrace dwelling. It's constructed with a gable end ridge roof with a projecting 2-storey rear wing and flat roofed single-storey rear side extension. A new gazebo and ancillary sort of home bar area has been created to the side elevation. So the property is located in an elevated position above the access lane, and there'll be a few images which will be part of the presentation shortly, with a sloping profile from west to east. In terms of the description of the development, the full application, it's a full application for the demolition of an existing utility room. Now there's the existing utility room there, and the replacement of a new single-storey side rear extension to be used as an ancillary accommodation as a granny annex. The proposed extension will measure 8 meters in length and 4 meters wide to the rear and reach a height of just over 3 meters. It'll be constructed with a flat roof with rendered walls to match the main dwelling. The windows and doors are proposed on all 3 elevations. So those are currently the current existing elevations. That's the utility area. This is the rear 2-storey extension, and this is the area towards the rear. That's the side elevation, again showing you the existing as is. And these images there show that this is the gazebo area to the front. That's the utility area towards the rear of the property. and that's a shot from the rear of the property again. So this area then, Chair, is to be demolished. This will be kept as is and incorporated into the new wraparound side and rear extension. And again, that shows the aspect of the property in relation to the adjoining properties. So in terms of representations, neighbouring properties were consulted on the 16th of July, and a site notice was displayed on the 16th of July as well. No representations were received, Chair. And again, main issues to consider in this particular application is the principle of development together with any impact on visual amenity of the area, the amenities of neighbouring residents, and indeed highway safety. So again, in terms of principle of development, the site is within settlement limits. So the principle of the development is generally acceptable, again, provided there are no overriding highway amenity or environmental objections. So the proposed, in terms of visual amenity, the proposed extension would replace the existing utility area as described with the flat roof design, and that would be set back from the principal elevation at the front end of the property by 6.33 metres. Although the property itself is located in a slightly elevated position in relationship to neighbouring properties, given its relative size, position and use of rendered walls to match the main dwelling, it would not consider to have a detrimental impact on the character or appearance of the surrounding area or street scene. And whilst the gazebo will be visible from the street scene, given that it will be reduced in size and indeed set back again from the front elevation, again, it would be acceptable in terms of visual amenity. So suitably reworded conditions in respect of the walls and staining of the gazebo will be imposed on the application to ensure that that is the case. In terms of residential amenity and potential overlooking, the windows and doors are proposed on all three sides of the extension. The windows to the front overlook the bar area and open land beyond. The windows to the rear of the annex extension would be overlooking the existing garden of number 4. And the window on the side elevation would serve a habitable room, which is a bedroom. So that does have the potential to create overlooking into number 3. However, the new timber fence is proposed to be constructed on top of the existing boundary wall to a height of 2 metres along the length of the extension to provide screening. And with these points in mind, Chair, it is considered that the proposed extension would not give rise to any unacceptable overlooking issues. In terms of the gazebo area, that would overlook the blank side elevation of the pine end of number 3, which is located at a lower level than the application site, and with the garage and shed at the side, and also it's angled away from the application site. So again, the retention of the gazebo will not consider to be creating any unacceptable overlooking issues. Potential overbearing and overshadowing, again, due to the size of the property extension and the gazebo relative to the surrounding properties, there's considered to be no unacceptable overbearing or overshadowing issues. In terms of parking and access requirements and impact on highway safety, it is noted that there's currently no parking on the application site, as no additional parking is proposed. But given the site is located off an unadopted lane and there is some informal parking available, the proposal was not to have any detrimental impact upon highway or pedestrian safety. So for these reasons, Chair, the recommendation again is for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Right, sorry, I was just reading a note there. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to committee, bearing in mind there are no speakers for this item. Does anybody wish to speak on it? Any questions? As I say, it is here basically because the applicant is a serving councillor and we need to be transparent in all that happens with councillors. Anybody wishing to say? Yeah, I read the note, Councillor Atkinson. I will come to you. I just wanted to know if there was anybody wanting to ask any questions first. No, I can't see any questions. Therefore, I've had an indication from Councillor Hunt that he is willing to propose this recommendation. So I'll take you to the recommendations on page 24 with the 4 conditions as well. And I believe, Councillor Hunt, you wish to propose.
Yes, please, Chair, with the conditions recommended, and I'd like to thank the officers. I will move this recommendation this morning.
Thank you. I need a seconder, please. Anybody?
I second that, Chair.
Thank you. Is that Councillor Renkis?
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Councillor Renkis. So I'm going to ask Tammy to go through the committee to ask once again if you've been present for the whole item and which way you intend to vote.
Thank you, Chair. So as you say, have you been present for the whole item?
I have.
I'll start myself. Yes. And how do you wish to vote, please?
I wish to vote for the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Same questions, Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Yeah, I've been present for the whole item. I'll be voting for the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis Keogh.
Yes, I have been present for the whole item and I shall be voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Rydion Mason.
I can confirm I've been present for the whole meeting and shall be voting for.
Thank you. And Councillor Steve Hunt, please.
Yes, I've been present for the entire meeting and I've been voting for.
Thank you. Councillor Alvin Mulcock.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can confirm that I've been present for the for the entire agenda item, and I will be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chris Williams. Councillor Williams, you might be on mute.
Oh, sorry. I have been present for the full agenda meeting and in favour of the proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Suzanne Renkes, please.
I've been present for the whole item and I will be voting for.
Great, thank you. Councillor Mark Prothero.
Thank you, Tammy. Yes, I can confirm I've been present for the whole item and I will be voting for the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Scott Bamsey.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. I've been present for the whole item and vote in favour for the recommendations.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Chris Jones, please.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. I've been present for the entire item and I'll be voting for the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Chair, I can confirm that application has been approved.
Thank you very much, Tammy. I will return now to the agenda. Item 5 on the agenda is urgent items. I have no urgent items. Therefore, I wish to give my thanks to the committee for their full and proper debate on the subjects and for the amendment suggestions, because that's what we're here for. And also to thank the two outside member councillors who spared their time to be with us today. And of course, all members, all of the committee and all officers, because it is August after all, and we're one of the committees that sits in August. So thank you very much for attending. Enjoy the rest of August and thank you. And I'll close the meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.